Okay, if you're here today, we've got a very special episode to solve a ongoing long-form debate. Is it better to invest in Uluwatu or Canggu? Now, if you've watched my previous videos, you'll see in the comment section below about amazing finds that you should discover about secrets to location selection. However, if you haven't watched them, this is a really good entry point into the Bali Business Review. This is Market Insights with Jing. Stay tuned and watch to the very end to uncover secrets that are never shown to any viewers on YouTube yet. Stick around and find out more. All right, so let's get into the brass tacks. Let's get into the actual, what would you call it? The actual analysis of Canggu versus Uluwatu. Let's remove the fancy offices. Let's remove the models walking through villas. Let's just look at the data. Let's look at the evidence and make an informed purchase decision based on looking at evidence. So what should we do first? We should do this first, right? So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share my screen, and in this screen share, you'll be able to see the evidence and the facts of what's happening here. So please take a look on the screen and I will start the journey. So where do we begin? We begin by looking at the first thing is ChatGPT. So let's compare these two regions here and see which region is doing better. So the first thing we can do is give a really good prompt to ChatGPT. This is my prompt. Give me a breakdown of what there's to do in Canggu and Uluwatu. Please compare major cultural attractions, social infrastructure, and the availability of affordable accommodations and experiential value. This is critical for understanding the analysis. So what ChatGPT has done is it's done a side-by-side breakdown of Canggu versus Uluwatu. We need to adopt the frame of reference of a guest. If a guest is in a position where they have to choose experience A or experience B, then this is the mental process in which they'll go through. So we can see in Canggu there is minimal Balinese temples, art is more imported and international, and yoga digital nomad culture defines a spiritual tone. Whereas Uluwatu has one of the most iconic cliffside temples, which is true. I've seen it in magazines and the cover of many travel brochures. There's the traditional Kichak dance at sunset. Yep, that causes a lot of traffic jams. And spiritual energy tied to nature and cliffs. Yes, that for the most part, the cultural comparison of Uluwatu versus Canggu seems accurate. What about the social infrastructure? Well, the social infrastructure in Canggu is much stronger. It has many more co-working spaces such as dojo, outpost, BeWork, Tropical Nomad. It is a Tropical Nomad headquarters. There's easy access to networking, cafes, creative workshops. There's also 24/7 convenience with gyms, vegan restaurants, nightlife, and surf shops. Very strong. Okay, in Uluwatu, we're looking at sparser social infrastructure, more reliant. Yes, I know this happened to be right because I am in many WhatsApp groups and word of mouth. There is far fewer co-working spaces, and it's more of a surf remote worker culture and fewer social events, save the Thursday cashew tree party and the Sunday single film party, but not as abundant as Canggu is for sure. For affordable accommodations, there is moderate to high competition, so that drives the price up. But given that there's an oversupply now in Bali, maybe that will change. But it still has budget-friendly hostels like Hideout, Costco, and Black Pearl. But rentals are more frequently on a monthly basis. Yes, I can attest that Canggu is a much more appropriate location for longer-term rentals, considering it has schools, has grocery stores, has that feel of a home a foreigner would come to expect if they were planning to spend more than a year in Bali. So Uluwatu is historically cheaper, but prices are rising with development. Can attest to that. Villas with sunset views are still available at decent rates compared to Canggu. In general, we do see that the properties in the front line next to the beach tend to have a bit more affordability because of this. Because groups go to Canggu more frequently in larger groups, and it's because Canggu just has a bit more, well, one, it doesn't have as many stairs. So if you are dealing with younger or older folks, they have easier access to go to the beach, unlike in Uluwatu, where everybody has to climb the stairs to get in and out on the beach. And the second thing is, I've noticed that in Canggu, there's much more stuff just around the place, so it's easier to access and be. More hospitals, more supermarkets. It's got that mixed thing that's good for everyone. All right, experiential value. Experiential value, well, Canggu is more of a social immersion. There's a lot of places where you can go and meet, sunset bars, all these particular places to engage in young and fun social activities. It's a creative hub. Uluwatu is more of a natural immersion and, of course, surf culture. So the too long didn't read summary, go to Canggu if you want high energy social life, networking, creative collaborations, good food, nightlife, and easy access to the comforts of modern life. True. And go to Uluwatu if you want dramatic nature, spiritual energy, iconic temples, surfing legend spots, and escape from the hustle. Okay, great. And the strategic insight is Canggu is saturated and stable, and Uluwatu has growth opportunity. That's a quick analysis using an AI tool like ChatGPT to give us an overview. And having been, say, a resident and also somebody who has a business in Uluwatu and having lived in Bali for over 20 years, I can attest that this is an uncanny good analysis for the two regions. All right, so what we want to then take a look at next is the 3D spatial map. Now, this is an exclusive product that is published by Bukit Vista. We can take a 3D look holistically at what the situation looks like, okay? So in terms of the rentals and Airbnbs available in Uluwatu, this is the landscape. There's a few really highly ranked properties, such as where you see the really big towers over here. Let me drag the map so you can see it a little bit better. Yep. So these are along the coastline and they're doing well. The highly ranked properties are pioneers that after amount of time will draw more rental properties around them because they are defining the value of a new location. So there's a high amount of clustering here around Bingen and over here too, near Uluwatu, Temple proper, an emerging region here in Yangyang, and this spot up in the center of the Bukit is the area. That area is also growing in density. So there is a lot of growth happening. As you can see with the growth too, there's a lot of failure. These gray dots that you see everywhere are attempts for maybe professional or amateur property managers that have tried to list their properties but have gotten no bookings so far. That's why they are at review 0. Now, moving over here to Dua, you see that there's a few outliers. Nusa Dua in general is not a high growth area because most of the land has been spoken for. One is land banking. Land banking is where usually multinational corporations and private enterprises, family businesses in Jakarta who have accumulated large sums of rupiahs have purchased and transferred their rupiah wealth into land. It's anti-inflationary, and they've spoken up for a lot of the large plots of land along the cliffside, along the beach side here in Nusa Dua. So that's why it's a little bit harder to see much growth in this area. Okay, so looking at it, let's go ahead and take a sample of a few properties that are doing well in Uluwatu. This property is, okay, shamelessly put, this is a Bukit Vista property. It's got 325 reviews, and you can see it's very popular, and it's a typically well-ranked property in Uluwatu. It's a guest house. The next one is also, surprisingly, another guest house, and this is one of the insights about property investment. Oftentimes, an apartment or a guest house, while being far less luxurious, being far less prestigious, does much, much better in terms of rentals because of a few factors which I'll go into in another video. But if you want to learn more about secrets to build better developments, then subscribe, follow, and comment in our channel. You'll find out more. All right, this property also has been doing well with 492 reviews. And also, now let's take a look at some other options that are available in Uluwatu. Another sequence of bungalows, 345 reviews, and this one is right on the beach. This one is a monster. It's a sequence of beachside apartments. I've remembered this one for a long time. It's the Sun and Surf Stay. They've been doing Airbnb for 10 years with over 497 reviews. Now, if you want to calculate how much the actual number of bookings are, take the reviews and multiply by 3. That will give you the overall number of bookings. And if you want to do a quick heuristic, you could take the number of bookings and then multiply it by, let's say, 2, which is the average length of stay, and then the average price, and that gives you a complete picture of how much money has been brought in by this particular business. Okay, so we can close these tabs right now, and I think we finished our analysis here in Uluwatu. Let's go over further to take a look at what's happening in Canggu, okay? So we're going to move past the airport here on your screen, and we're going to move right across the beach side in this direction as we get from Kuta, which is on the right side of the screen, over to Canggu, which is up towards the upper left side of the screen. So what you're seeing now is a proliferation of many short-term rentals throughout the entire area, which is great. There's a lot of space to expand into. This section over here on the segment of my screen in the top right corner is difficult to expand into because a lot of this, as you can see, has already been spoken for urban housing. Mostly Balinese who are living in the city of Denpasar have already taken the land up here. But the expansion and growth you see over here, there seems to be a borderline around the Praranan line. And we've seen this borderline stay put for over a year and a half now. So the border hasn't really moved over further to the west as one would expect. And we have our hypothesis on the impact of congestion traffic being the limiting factor for further westward growth. Okay, so what's it look like in terms of the growth here? There's a lot of area that has already been established. I think most of the potential growth opportunities are already fulfilled. You can see most of the beach line has already been taken up. And even going inland, there's already a lot of listings that have been planted already. These will grow over time as more and more guests are seeking accommodations further inland. They tend to be a little bit less expensive. And there's a few patches that are left over here, and here where growth could be. But overall, that it seems like Canggu does feel like a very saturated marketplace, which is no surprise. Let's go down into the details again, take a look at the accommodations. They're doing very well in Canggu. Once again, this one's a beast. This one, although listed in Kuta, let's go ahead and take a look. This one is irrelevant. Let's go ahead and close that. Or maybe let's bring it back. Okay, let's bring it back and do a quick analysis. This is an outlier in Kuta. Maybe this can be a palate cleanser here. So as a property, it's doing very, very good. 4.78. Pretty terrible pictures, not the most flattering look, of course, but Mr. Wayan here has been super hosting for 8 years, has taken about 702 reviews, which is enormous. He must be one of the largest towers of reviews that you see out here. This one, apartment for rent in Kuta near the beach. Okay, that's one. So this one is a palate cleanser. It shows you sort of the contrast that's happening between Canggu and Uluwatu. But let's go down into Uluwatu and see what we find. Okay, this one is in Kuta Utara. That's the correct official name for Canggu. Anybody watching this particular channel will know now that Canggu is more of a sort of a slang that got picked up by a lot of foreigners, but the official name on land certificates and titles for properties is Kuta Utara, which in Bahasa Indonesia means North Kuta. So we can see this property in Canggu. This one's doing very, very well. Super hosting 10 years, 295 reviews. It looks like a well-established villa in the region, and it's close to the beach near Finn's Club. So that's an example of a property that's doing very good. Here's another one, Beachside Villa de Liza, 3-bedroom, 10 guest. Also doing good, 351 reviews. Super hosted by Maria or Lisa. As you can see, if you're super hosting, you are doing very well in terms of your ranking, and you will continue to get more guests, and also you'll pull up the value of your region, as you can see. All right, so let's go into the next segment of our analysis here. So what you're seeing now on your screen is an analysis using Google Trends. Google Trends is a freely available tool. We'll put a link on the comment section below, and you can type this in. You can search for micro regions within Uluwatu, like Bingin, like Balangan, like Nusa Dua, like Nyangnyang. You can put all these different terms in and compare them also to micro regions in Canggu, such as Praranan, such as Tibu Benang, other sub-neighborhoods in each area to get more finite analysis. But as you can see here, back in 2004, which is as far as Google Trends can go, the popularity of Uluwatu surpassed Canggu, which was natural because at that point, when I first came, Uluwatu had the temple, it had the Kechak dance, and it had surfers who were going regularly to Uluwatu. Canggu had pretty much nothing. Canggu was a suburb for families who had businesses in Seminyak to build their homes, their private residential homes. And as you can see, the crossover happened sometime around 2016. So that's when Canggu exceeded Uluwatu's popularity, and it went up until COVID, where Canggu rose to 84 in terms of relative popularity compared to Uluwatu at 61. Now, after COVID, everyone hit rock bottom about the same space, and Canggu recovered faster up until about the August 2023, where you see they're neck and neck, And since that point, Canggu's only had a very slight lead above Uluwatu. So in terms of the popularity of Google's analysis of these keywords, that's what we see. But the other direction we want to look at is this. Google isn't the only space in which there's a large amount of data and traffic going through the internet. It's also on social media platforms. I've taken the two most popular social media platforms, TikTok and Instagram, and we've created a few permutations of what these search terms would be on Google Trends. It's going to be TikTok, TikTok Bali, Bali Instagram versus Instagram Bali. So you can see here, the winner is always Instagram. So Instagram is the more popular platform, but they kind of track, right? So you can see the rise of Instagram also corresponds to the rise of TikTok. They almost converge sometime around 2021, and now they're pretty much in parallel, okay? Why am I showing you this? Why is this important? Because Instagram, as far as I've done my research, doesn't publicly share hashtag data, which means that on Instagram, we cannot find what is the relative importance of a hashtag like Canggu versus Uluwatu. However, on TikTok, we can. And so by understanding that the TikTok and Instagram popularities are parallel, we can use the TikTok hashtag trend as a proxy indicator to understand what's also happening on Instagram. Hopefully that part makes sense, but what I'm saying is that if you understand what's happening on TikTok, the same trend is happening on Instagram, even though Instagram is a more popular platform. Okay, so let's bring ourselves to the last part of our analysis here, where we'll take a look at the TikTok tool, once again, freely available, that any person can check. Once again, don't trust anybody, trust yourself, do your own research. All right, so we see Canggu as a hashtag on Instagram really gained popularity sometime and reached popularity sometime around, I guess it was the 2013s to 2019s, okay? And overall, there's been 97,000 posts in the past 12 months in all regions and 208,000 overall. But here's what we see in Canggu. We see it starts at 91, it dips down, it goes up to 100, and then it comes down to 81. So I know this is quite a lot to digest, but the only real thing you need to know is that, let's say at the very beginning, it starts at 91 and it ends at 81. So that's the trend of Canggu. It's in a downward trend. So here's a trend in Uluwatu. Uluwatu also, as a travel insight, fewer number of posts and fewer overall. If you go back here, you can see that it's about half of the overall activity that you see on this hashtag in Uluwatu versus Canggu. However, what's strangely encouraging is this. What's strangely encouraging is the progression. It starts at 66 and it ends now at 83, which means that as a hashtag on TikTok and perhaps also on Instagram, the rise of Uluwatu is showing. That also paired with our spatial data analysis indicates that there's more room for growth in Uluwatu. So in conclusion, based on our analysis, that there is two very, very powerful 800-pound gorillas in Bali, without Ubud, of course. The Canggu region and the Uluwatu region are matched almost evenly in terms of their investment potential. However, it does look like the opportunities for future growth in Canggu are more limited compared to Uluwatu. That's not to say that Uluwatu doesn't have its problems that would, let's say, limit the capacity for future growth. Uluwatu certainly has congestion in most of the areas. I know it from living in my neighborhood. More people have found a shortcut through our neighborhood, access Bingen, and some of the other parts deeper in Uluwatu. But just speaking plainly, there's just far more land available. There's far more empty space available for more investment to grow into. And that page really hasn't been fully written in yet. So that's our analysis. And once again, as a disclaimer, Bukit Vista, whom I'm the CEO of, is located in Uluwatu. So I'm not speaking necessarily to my own benefit. Once again, on market insights, I speak plainly, use data, really drive home the facts. If you have any other evidence that you'd like to share with us on this channel, we want a transparent discussion, and we encourage all viewers and audience to share their thoughts and insights in the comments below so we can have, once again, a very healthy, productive, insightful discussion about what's happening in Bali. Okay, that's it. This is this episode of Market Insights here on the Bali Business Review. I'm Jing, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode.